Good morning, ladies and gents. It has been quite some time, and a lot of you might be wondering where I have been. That is a good question. But before we get to that, just a quick cover on what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about everything that we missed while playing Leagues 4, because I know a lot of us are way too busy playing Leagues 4, strategizing, doing all the routes and everything to really pay attention to the news or get on YouTube, and a lot of y'all might have been burnt out at some point, even like I was, and stopped playing for a little bit. So you might be coming back, and this is pretty much what that video is for, so you are completely informed about everything you missed while playing Leagues. There have been a couple updates that have came out after Leagues 4. We won't be covering those in this video. That'll be in another video coming out in the next couple days. But without further ado, I have been gone because that was my first time ever playing a Leagues, and I was pretty overwhelmed. There was a lot, and I was trying to go as fast as possible. I was trying to get to the in-game content, and I picked some regions where I hadn't really done stuff in RuneScape before. Like, I never really learned the ins and outs of the Gargoyle boss, Dusk and Dawn. I was rank 1 KC at some point in the league, so I had like 120 something KC in like the first week. I was very busy playing Leagues, and on top of that, at some point after my vacation ended and I kind of started going back to work, took a job promotion, and then I took a secondary vacation at the very end of Leagues with my fiance now, and we actually got engaged. So it's been very busy for me, and that is pretty much where I've been. It's been very hectic, and I didn't expect to get so overwhelmed, and I probably should have put out a video saying that I was pretty much going to be playing Leagues. I tried to stream. It really wasn't working. It was just too much. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into all the news that we have missed while playing Leagues. So the first update, and this actually I believe came out either the day after or the day before Leagues dropped. I don't really recall, but I know I didn't cover it. So just to cover this and give you an idea of where this news is really starting from, Scurrius the Rat King. I actually briefly looked over this before. I really liked the stuff that I saw, so let's go ahead and get into it. If you're reading this, the good news is that Ratbone weaponry has passed. Ooh, okay, hold on. We actually need to go back a little bit and cover the whole post because they made a previous post apparently, and I missed it. It should be in November. It's not. October? Is it really in October? Well, this is interesting. Okay, so I guess that they just completely redid it anyways. This says a feedback change. They probably made the whole entire blog post to change. So if you're reading this, the good news is that Ratbone weaponry has passed, so any budding adventurers looking to train their combat stats in a slightly more engaging way will be able to get their hands on rat spawns and make some purpose-built rat slaying weaponry. So once we get to Ratbone weaponry, this is one of the things that I loved when I did a brief overview of it. Super love it. I think you guys are also going to love it. While the poll was live, we went back and forth internally about the 3-tick versus 4-tick debate. Many players point out that 3-tick weaponry isn't used particularly frequently, and that where it is, it's for relatively niche purposes like bouncing between Nilos as quickly as possible, with our aims being to get people comfortable with the rhythm of combat in old school. We agree that it makes more sense to give players weaponry that more accurately reflects what they'll be using, since it gives them the chance to practice flicking offensive prayers or moving between hits in the same ways they might do in the future when using weapons like scimitars or the Abyssal Whip. So the idea of this boss, if you have missed this before, is to introduce low to mid-level players to PVM mechanics more than PVM, because they have some low to mid-level PVM, but the mechanics required to do such bosses are not really required. Continuing from that, with the above in mind, we're going to be adjusting these weapons to a 4-tick attack rate. This means one attack every 2.4 seconds. Without trying to give too much away about the fight, there are several segments of the fight where you'll be able to bounce between hits with no attack delay, which is one of the mechanics we're using to deliver a good portion of the XP per hour while fighting Scurious, so this change isn't likely to impact your training in any significant way. What they just said also reminds me of a previous part that I read. This is going to be one of the best ways to get combat XP, excluding something like Nightmare Zone, max gear training type stuff. It's going to be more of a like budget friendly, very good combat training method if you are involved or engaged with the game. It won't be AFK, but it'll be very good XP. We hope this is a change that makes sense to all of you and better prepares us up and coming adventurers for the challenges ahead. Thanks for voting and for reading. Enjoy these updated animations. Scarious looking majorly menacing to keep you up at night over the weekend. He's come a little way from our early concepts. That's pretty good. I like it. Very interesting. It's a tri-rat. Okay. Yeah, so here's the actual blog post. Ratbone weaponry. Your biggest feedback centered around the creeping influence of Chargescape. While you loved the core concept of the Ratbone weapons, you didn't like the idea of having to charge them. We included the charge mechanic in the original design so that rat spine drops would continue to be exciting no matter how many times players obtained one. However, we understand the community's objection and have decided to remove the charge mechanic from these weapons entirely. The Ratbone staff will, however, still require 1,000 chaos runes to cast, which will convert to 1,000 casts of its inbuilt spell. Further casts can be added with more chaos runes, although this is still a charge mechanic. It's in line with how other staffs with inbuilt spells behave, so we feel it's appropriate. So what are you going to do with those extra rat spines? You can't pawn them all off on that weirdo near Paterdomus. Since Scurious is all about combat XP, we decided to allow players to trade their extra rat spines for XP lamps, redeemable against combat skills, attack, defense, HP, magic, prayer, range, and strength. Lastly, Ratbone weaponry now works against all rat-type enemies, not just Scurious and his brood. Scariest pet. Second bit of feedback was that you really wanted to pet the horrible rat. Yeah, so he will drop a pet. We would like to explain our initial reasoning though. Generally speaking, we try not to attach pets to content where the addition of a pet is detrimental to the loot table. Pets are usually reserved for skills in high level PVM. The content is going to see plenty of activity without the addition of a desirable pet drop, skewing the numbers. Initially, we felt that Scarious' purpose was to help low level players understand train combat. That wasn't needed. However, you've shown us light and we were delighted to introduce Scary, an adorable furry friend who will accompany you on adventures big and small, assuming RNG is on your side, of course. I like the pet. I would love a little pet rat. I think that's awesome. That'll be good. Plus, it's probably going to be either him or the mole will be the easiest pets to obtain. So that will be very good. Ratbone weaponry is very good. So going back on this, rat spines. The rat spines are a drop that you will get from Scurious, similar to Vorkath and the piece that you get for the assembler. It's going to be just like that, except it's going to be used to both make the weapons and trade in for lamps. So that's cool. Yeah, so yeah, this is just a clarification. There will not be a free-to-play or a hard mode. Yeah, so he's meant only for members only, like mid-level PVM to low-level PVM. Scarious will drop Death Runes, Chaos Runes, Addy Arrows, Rune Arrows, and a bunch of other goodies. Okay. So here's the initial blog post. I thought that was the initial blog post, but I think that was a secondary blog post. This will be everything that I've pretty much mentioned. During this year's Summer Summit, we mentioned that we'd soon introduce a mid-level PVM update to bridge the gap between mid and in-game content. As you no doubt read in the blog, Vrelamore will introduce plenty of PVM options in the form of Perilous Moons and the Fortis Coliseum, but we're not stopping there. Scurry's Rat King is designed to introduce core PvM mechanics and help newer players get to grips with combat. This rambunctious rodent and his pack will test your knowledge of overhead prayers, your dodging skills, and your ability to manage multiple monsters during a fight. All things you'll need to master if you plan to take on tougher bosses later in your adventuring career. We had some early sketches of him, pretty good. I do think that the other one looks better, however, I don't like that there's not limbs. I feel like I would rather like more limbs, but I like the tri-tail. I would like more limbs on the sides, kind of clawing frantically, but you know, whatever. Yeah. We recommend that players have at least 43 prayer to unlock Protect from melee before venturing into Scarius' lair, but there are no other requirements. This encounter is designed for combat levels 60 through 90, although it's more about mastering mechanics and relying on chunky stats, which is good. Again, we don't have really many things like that. Players can choose to face Scarius alone or group up with friends to take him down. If you've got mates who are new to old school, this is a perfect way to introduce them to the joys of boss combat, or if you're new to the game yourself, this encounter serves as an opportunity to learn alongside other players at the same skill level. On that theme, we've made it super easy to gear back up and get back into the action. We don't want newer players to feel too frustrated while they're trying to learn. That's good. To be absolutely clear, if you already have PvM experience, you're unlikely to find Scarius to be much of a challenge, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing here for you. Let's look at the magnificent treasure Scarius is hiding. So the rewards, what we're all here for. Often when we talk about rewards for bosses, we end up with the usual suspects: cold, hard cash, fancy new uniques, and a few supplies to keep the streak going. Given that Scarius targets an extremely broad level range, it's difficult to pinpoint a reward that's exciting for both level 60 beginners and level 90 players to take on tougher foes. That's why we're trying something totally new and a bit scary. The primary reward from the Rat King will be combat XP. We're not talking lamps or other trade-ins. We're saying we're trying something new and we meant it, which it actually will be lamps. Partially though, not entirely, just partially. Usually players gain the bulk of their combat XP except prayer, passively while training Slayer or at AFK spots like Sand, Rock, Ammonite, or Swamp Crabs, and the Nightmare Zone. This boss represents a big departure from that model and provides an opportunity to train combat in a more engaging, rewarding, and exciting way. You'll be able to track your gains during the fight, and you'll be rewarded for choosing more intensive combat methods. As a ballpark, you can expect low-level players using Ratbone weaponry while fighting Scarius to receive significantly more XP than passive options like Nightmare Zone and Crabs. Higher level players will likely be better off training combat as they always have, Slayer, other bossing, and other more efficient methods. So once you get past 90 and you have certain gear checks met, you probably won't need to really be here for this, but engaging at lower level or with budget friendly gear, this might be a really good place for you to go. We're still in the process of fine-tuning the balance for XP rates and Ratbone weaponry, so while the aims outlined in the paragraph above are what we're working towards, we're going to steer clear of including any specific XP rates at this stage since they're very likely to change. Also, as an additional extra, you'll be able to earn your own little rat companion in the form of the pet dropped from Scarius, Scurry. Now, you're probably wondering what on earth Ratbone weaponry refers to. If you are, thanks for setting up the perfect segue. Excuse me for one sec. Ratbone weaponry. In short, Ratbone weaponry lets you double down on those XP rewards, but you'll need to get a bit crafty first. Please note these weapons can only be used against Scarius or other rat type enemies and won't work against any other NPCs. Defeat Scarius and you may obtain the uncommon untradeable rat spine. Lovely. Combine that with a rune mace, use short bow or a battle staff, and 1,000 chaos runes to create the Ratbone mace, bow, or staff. You'll need 35 smithing, fletching, or crafting respectively, so those are very low to mid-level PvM stats. Most people will have those, and even if you don't have those, you can go probably spend 2 to 3 hours out training this and you will get it. So that's a very, very feasible thing to get. And the rune mace, I'm pretty sure you can get that at the Champions Guild, south of Rock, I think. Might be wrong on that. The Ratbone mace is a faster version of the Dragon mace. The Ratbone bow is essentially a magic short bow where range strength depends on the tier of ammo you you're using all the way up to Rune. The Ratbone staff has a magic bonus equivalent to the Mystic staff and its own built-in spell that requires 1 Chaos Rune per cast, which can be added directly into the staff. These icky armaments are specifically designed for fighting a huge rat, as you'll have the potential to add up to 10 damage to your current max hit when using the Ratbone weaponry against this critter. If you were smacked with a giant version of your own spine, you'd feel pretty demoralized too. Yeah. This shakes out to significantly more XP per hour. You'll want to grab yourself a spine and start swinging as soon as possible. Each Ratbone weapon requires 50 in either attack, range, or magic to wield. You can see those stats in the image below. So 60 crush, pretty good. 55 strength. They did change the attack rate on this to 4, so that's no longer the case. 69, nice. And then 14 magic bonus. No magic damage, but I'm guessing the plus 10 damage, or the plus 10 damage that it adds is an invisible boost. It's probably just added on post hit calculation. Oh wait, there's more. For any spare spines you receive, you'll be able to trade this in for an experience lamp that will allow you to give a certain amount of XP in the following skills: attack, defense, HP, magic, prayer, range, and strength. Rat spine is not especially rare, although it's not a guaranteed drop. Don't worry if you don't get a rat spine straight away. The other drops on the offer ensure you'll still have a healthy handful of spending cash to go improve your gear. Great incentive to go try some other content before descending into the sewers again. Not bad. I believe. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is just a frequently asked question. Should we add Ratbone weaponry, new weapons that can only be used on rat type enemies as described in the blog? Yeah, so they've already answered this. So not bad. This is a pretty good update. I really like it, and hopefully it actually does bridge the gap more in between mid-level, low-level PVM combat to kind of more engaging higher-end combat, because we don't really have that. Like, the most we have is stuff in Zaya, and it's not that good. Like Barrows maybe too, but again, not that good. So the next one, and hopefully I'm gonna have these timestamped at some point or in the description down below. Not sure if my channel has access to the timestamps yet, which is a very unfortunate thing, but next update in line, wrapping up forestry changes and tweaks. Now that forestry is complete, we've decided to reevaluate the content as a whole and address some of your biggest bugbears. That's a weird term, never seen that before. For the most part, we feel that forestry has achieved its goal of making woodcutting a more social, engaging experience, but we've heard your concerns and recognize that there are still a few changes we can make to ensure forestry feels right. To clarify, this isn't Forestry Part 3, these are just simple quality of life changes based on your feedback. Let's get into it. Event items. Our intention with event items was to offer a way to make money through forestry. Other woodcutting resources aren't that valuable, so we were keen to find ways to slot it into the wider economy of the game. I actually love that idea, because bots have basically made logs in RuneScape like completely worthless. Like I think all the way up to maple is like, I think willow logs up to like maple logs, and I think even like yew logs are like less than 100 GP each, but regular logs and oak logs are like 300. It's very stupid. That is a good idea, because obviously bots aren't going to do the random events, at least not yet, fingers crossed. After reviewing your feedback, however, it's clear that many of you think the new items feel necessary for a skill that used to be chop wood, get logs, and new items at a layer of unwanted complexity and make players feel as though they have to do a lot of preparation to train the skill efficiently. With that in mind, we're going to remove all forestry event items from the game, which means that when that happens, you'll only need your forestry kit and axe to participate in all the events. Free-to-play players will be unaffected by this change, but members will be able to participate in events a lot more easily. We also recognize that players have spent hard-earned time and resources for crafting these items and want to reward that. Any event items remaining when this update launches will be converted to GP equal to the average price of the relevant item. Well, that sucks. I get it, because like the random event, you're not technically getting woodcutting XP. I feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure why more people don't want that. I guess it's because like woodcutting is just kind of an AFK thing. Um, I'm not sure how to make it to where like you can get value without the bots demeaning all the value you're getting. Apart from just doing a huge log sink, which, sailing might just have that. Building ships and stuff takes up a lot of wood. Hopefully they do something like that, make a big log sink. Now that the event items have been removed, event spawns. Oh, did not mean to click that. Now that the event items have been removed, what happens to the events? Currently, the forestry meta is to stick to one world and run around looking for events or wait until they're called out in a clan chat. This gets you the best XP and chances to obtain the uniques per hour. However, this is just replicating a problem we were hoping to address. The problem of woodcutting players all bunching up together in one spot instead of spreading throughout the world. Since we already tackled the world hopping meta, leaving this one alone seems like a misstep. Consequently, we're going to change how events work to encourage people to train in their favorite forest rather than feeling that they have to jog halfway across Gillinor because their mate in Sears Village has seen a leprechaun. I get that. That sounds very annoying. Definitely would not want to do that, especially in old school RuneScape, or if I was low agility, or didn't have, if I was Iron Man, didn't have all the teleports unlocked, be really, really rough. Put simply, the chance for an event to spawn near you is now based on the last 2 trees you chopped. We'll be tracking woodcutting activity over the last 3 minutes, which is about 2 trees worth of time. The tracking measures chops, not logs, so don't panic if you haven't received a log for a while. It'll still count towards the event spawn. That's not bad. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty even. Each tree you've chopped lately will have a 20 tile radius in which an event can spawn that you're able to participate in. If you're eligible, you'll get the full amount of XP, Anima Infused Spark, and unique roles available from that event, so it's well worth sticking around to get the most out of your forestry training. If you're not eligible, you'll still be able to participate, but you only receive around 10% of the XP available, and you won't be able to obtain uniques or Anima Infused Spark. This means that we've preserved the fun of stumbling across an event in the wild while encouraging foresters to chop in their favorite spots rather than teleporting all over the place and completing an endless stream of forestry events without much woodcutting occurring. So what they did do here that I feel iffy about, but I'm not necessarily upset, is when you're randomly traveling through Gillinor and you run across this forest, you saw someone chopping some wood, and then they had an event, you're not going to be able to be part of that event, at least not actually earn everything that you could normally. So they're squandering that one player that was just roaming around RuneScape and stumbled across an event out of luck, I guess. But the person that has been chopping wood for a minute can participate in the event and get the full reward. So, I mean, it's a give and take thing. It's less fun to see that type of thing. You're just gonna be kind of disappointed, be like, oh man. But on the flip side of things, with things like shooting stars, whenever you come across one, it's kind of the opposite. You still get the rewards as much as you participate in it. Weird. I don't know. I feel like there's something different that they could have done with this, but it's fine. I mean, if your goal is to train woodcutting, this is fine. You will get your woodcutting items, so that's fine. We're also making a couple of balancing changes to help make forestry events feel a bit more special. Firstly, we'll be increasing the time between events to balance this. We're making it more likely for players to obtain uniques. This should mean it isn't too much trickier to fill out your collection log, but just in case, we'll be keeping a close eye on the drop rates after this update launches to ensure that it is all as it should be. Twitcher's gloves. This was another area where players have been overwhelmed. The constant need to recharge their Twitcher's gloves proved to be quite an annoyance, so we're overhauling how they work completely. As of this update, Twitcher's gloves will become a single item that doesn't require charges We're also doubling their Burden S buff to 20%. In line with this upgrade, we're also increasing their cost to 5,000 anima-infused bark and 500 willow logs. Noted. We will be removing older versions of the gloves, which means keen bird watchers will need to purchase some new ones from the forestry shop. You will be refunded for any gloves you have purchased previously to the tune of all the anima-infused bark and willow logs spent on every pair of unused gloves. This change should make the gloves feel like a better reward overall. Interesting. Arctic pine trees. This last change is comparatively minor, but it's something you've asked for consistently since forestry first launched. Essentially, some rewards require Arctic pine logs, but not every account type can obtain them. As you know, our general feeling is that restricted accounts are restricted for a reason, but Arctic pine logs aren't exactly a precious resource that need to be locked behind a quest, especially since you don't even unlock them from the quest. In the interest of fairness, we've sent our best gardeners to the wilds of Relica, where they've successfully planted a new grove of Arctic pines. Now everyone can appreciate their beauty and then immediately chop them down for firewood. Don't worry, we're sure they'll grow back. Hope you agree that these changes are a step in the right direction for both forestry and woodcutting as a whole. Okay. I like this change. I do think it's pretty not cool to have these logs locked behind a quest. So excuse me. That's pretty good. These are good changes for the most part. There's some iffy ones where I think they could have handled it better, but I think this is fine. Like overall, it's good for like the longevity of forestry as a whole. So, Chambers of Xerix changes. We are getting into the PVM. I mean, I guess Scarius was PVM, but we're getting into the current PVM stuffs. Scarius might not be out for who knows how much longer, but this stuff is already out. We have 2 more update posts to read over, and some of you might have actually experienced this one during the leagues like I did, and I will not lie, there's some good changes in here. Let's go ahead and read it. Changelog, November 29th. Whoa. Okay, there's a lot more than I thought here. So, hold on. Okay. So we're gonna read over this first. This actually should be everything. I think they just have everything visualized and the reasons behind everything down below. So here's a changelog. General changes: added a new reload option to the lobby staircase, allowing the raid leader to generate a new layout and boot anyone in the current instance. This is actually very interesting. I don't actually remember seeing this during leagues. Added a new scaling option to the recruitment board party interface, allowing the raid leader to increase the raid's difficulty without requiring additional players. Place energy pools throughout the raid. Various unnoted consumable items, namely common food and potions, will now appear to other players when dropped. That's good. That's actually very good. Sped up the growth times of Buchu, Goldfire, and Noxifer plants. I noticed this during leagues, and it was such a good thing. Scavengers. Since scavengers roll multiple drops, it's possible to get multiple sets of the components above. Tweak drops so that whenever any potion secondary would be dropped, scavengers now drop 3 to 11 stinkhorn, mushroom, 3 to 6 Sicily, and 5 to 14 dark juice. Scavengers now only roll 2 drops at a time, sped up both the mining and woodcutting shortcuts, which now provide points comparable with the boulder shortcut. This I'm actually very happy about because that's always pissed me off. Malignum root planks are now stackable. That's very good. That is actually so good. It was so annoying to have to drop your whole inventory to get enough for the big chest. Tecton, the first Dragon War Armor special attack against Tecton is now guaranteed to hit. This is very good. It is possible to still hit a 0, which means that you would technically miss. You would technically not reduce anything. It counts as a non-hit if you still hit 0, I believe. But all in all, that's very good. Tecton no longer resets his defense when healing at the anvil. This also makes Tecton almost required If you're doing any normals, you almost always want Tecton, and you almost always want a Dragon Warhammer. Crabs, players can no longer splash on crabs if their magic bonus is higher than negative 64. Attacks no longer have any delay after hitting a crab. If your attack changes the crab's color, you won't automatically re-attack. This is good. I could see how that would have been very annoying. Ice steaming kindling is now stackable up to a cap of 28. This is so good. It was so annoying to have to pick up every single piece of kindling and light a brazier, go get a whole nother one, drop it all, light a second brazier. It's very annoying. Lighting braziers and breading kindling now provides more points. Now drops stinkhorn, mushroom, and darkened juice Sicily to each player when defeated. Reduce the ice steaming's magic defense from 60 to 40. That's good because a lot of the bosses in this raid is actually best in slot is melee, so this is actually good. Vanguard standardized drops, overload drop mechanics remain unchanged. Melee Vanguard now drops 2 Xerix Aid and Elder Potion. Range Vanguard now drops 1 Xerix Aid, 2 Revitalize Potion, and Twist Potion. Magic Vanguard now drops 1 Xerix Aid, 1 Prayer Enhance, and a Kodai Potion. Thieving Room. Increase the chance to successfully steal from the chest. Grubs are stackable up to a cap of 28, which is such a good change. Successful chest openings now guarantee a minimum of 1 grub. Slightly increased points per grub. Players now receive Stinkhorn, Mushroom, and Darkened Juice and Sicily upon completion. Increase Lux Grubs HP from 100 to 125. Nevamia Blossoms now heal Lux Grubs for 35 HP up from 20. Reduce the range of melee strength of Vespula and Vespine soldiers. Reduce Abyssal Portal healing for Vespine soldiers. Vespula now drops guaranteed Overload Plus. Vasa Nasirio. Reduce Voss's range defense. Voss will now only heal if Crystal isn't destroyed in time. Vossa now drops a guaranteed Overload Plus. Mystics. A handy set of portals will now appear after all Mystics are defeated, allowing for easier traversal across the room. That's pretty good, because their room is very annoying. It does take like 10-15 seconds to walk through. Mutadiles. Adjusted the damage formula for Dimitri the Meat Tree. Woodcutting level divided by 2, -2, plus or -5. Those Mutadiles will attempt to heal at the meat tree when reduced below 50% HP, up from 40%. Both Mutadiles can now be damaged while frozen, even if they were trying to move towards the meat tree. That's good. Reduce the max hits of both Mutadiles. Oh, interesting. I don't know if that was needed. Big Mutadile will now only swap between magic and ranged attacks after using the same style 3 times, not counting melee attacks. Interesting. So that's pretty good. Great. Olm's portal swap special now spawn the portal within 10 tiles of players in a solo encounter. Olm's healing pool tag now has a cooldown of 10 attacks. Okay, that's actually very good. There's some Leagues 4 changes. Yeah. Okay. So the general changes to reload option. So all that running back and forth to the recruitment board can get pretty tiring, huh? Our first change aims to give you your tired legs a rest with a new reload option. As raid leader, simply right-click the stairs in the lobby area, select reload, and you'll generate a fresh new layout without any fuss. No wonder I couldn't find that. I thought it would have been like a button or something beside the stairs, but it was just an option when you right-click the stairs. I just disbanded my party every time. Note that anyone in the raid who isn't the leader will be booted when you do this, so be sure to give your companions plenty of warning. Since the chambers is Eric or Incense, you'll also lose any items on the ground inside the raid, so if you're somehow able to drop something on the ground in the lobby, be careful and let us know how you managed it. New UI option, which allows you to scale up the difficulty of the raid by adding invisible players. Spooky. Oh, that's actually pretty fun. Yeah, that's actually very good. Kind of wish I knew about this during raids. Again, I didn't get to read any of these during raids. I was very caught up within the raids, or within leagues. With your shiny new layout and your imaginary friends in place, it's time to gear up. As of today, you might be able to free up some inventory slots by bringing fewer stamina potions into peppered energy pools throughout the raid to keep you topped up as you progress. That's actually very good. Squad's ready, you're geared up, you're feeling good about saving one whole stamina potion. You started the raid. Guys, I forgot anti-poison. Moans that only non-iron in your group. Don't panic, our next change means that most common food and potions will now appear for all account types when dropped within the raid. Drop away. Note that this doesn't apply to noted consumables, so Ultimate Iron Man players are still safe to do whatever they spend all their time doing while you wait for them to prep. On the topic of prep, we've sped up growth times for Buchu, Gulper, and Oxford plants throughout the raid. Yep, Scavenger Beast. Even though preparators had to start somewhere, and that somewhere probably include rolling dice on scavs. Yep. Playing slot picks. They drop potion secondaries. Yep. And the goal of this is to make them more consistent when dropping their secondaries. So now it get pretty frustrating when you just see one more Spigot Sicily to finish your prep, but you kept getting in Dark and Juice instead. As of today, though, Scavengers are guaranteed to drop all the following items: 5 to 14 in Dark and Juice, 3 to 11 Sinkhorn Mushroom, 3 to 6 Sicily. Scavs already have a chance to roll multiple secondary drops. This change just makes it more likely that you'll find the ingredients you need. Initially, Scavs will now only roll 2 drops upon death, which should keep the floor clear enough for you to pick out whatever bits you need. While you're chasing and pushing secondaries, you might happen across a Malignum root plank or two. As of today's update, you can feel free to pick them up because they're now stackable. Very, very good update. The mining and woodcutting shortcuts now give more points, more comparable to Boulder. Oh, interesting. Okay. So to say that Tecton is a little bit tanky is the understatement of the decade. This mad lad's incredible defenses let him shrug off just about any attack, even when you're using maximum crush bonus gear to take advantage of his one weakness. That's great for Tecton, but much less great for players having to land Dragon Warrior respect before they can reduce Tecton's ludicrous defense and actually start doing damage. Whereas Tecton's oversized anvil lets him heal up, remove your hard-earned defense debuff, and give himself even more defense when he returns to the fight. 8,200 of you voted on how best to tackle Tecton. Here's the result of the poll. Prevent Tecton's defense from resetting when he's at the anvil. 2,900 of y'all voted for that. Guaranteed hit for the first Dragon Warrior respect. 2,800 voted for that. Elder Maul hits reduce Tecton's defense by 5% of its current value. 1,700 people voted for that. That one doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so not sure why that got voted for. Boost Crush defense during his enraged form. 578 people voted for that. Preferences were clear, so they went with the top 2 options, which pretty good. So he no longer regains defense when going to the anvil, so that's actually very good. Still want to show the Elder Maul some love, so keep an eye out for the tweaks we're planning for Project Rebalance in a few months, which is the next blog post. However, I don't believe the Elder Maul is part of it, but the next blog post that I'm covering at the end of this video is what that will be over. Oh, and if you're one of the 2 people who voted other, we salute you for breaking the mold. Interesting. Yeah, so they've already made the changes to crabs. The ice demon changes are pretty good. Already read over everything here. Yeah, they are guaranteed to drop an Overload Plus. That was an old change. Already read this. I've already read this. Yeah, so it looks like the rest of the room, or the rest of the blog post is from the change blog. Yeah, so everything else in here is just from the change blog. They have some merch in here, and that's it. Now, on to the juiciest part that some of you might have been waiting for. Project Rebalance. This came out mid-ish December. Pretty much right in the middle of leagues. And it's covering the Scythe of Vitter and the Fang. Bless the Fang finally getting nerfed slightly. Uh, Anyways, it's all getting discussed. We're gonna dive into it right here. I personally think that it deserves to be nerfed because it's very common. It's a very common drop from Tombs of Masket, which is also the easiest raid of the three, kind of. It's the easiest one to get into because you can do it with very low requirements and blah 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 blah. A Fang is very easy to get. They're like 20 something mil. They're very cheap and they're pretty much best in slot right now for everything. So Project Rebalance overview, Scythe and Fang. Elder Maul is not in this, but we're gonna go through this and discuss and pretty much deep dive. This is the meat of this video. Quick note, this post contains a lot of text that isn't really simple to provide a TLDR for. Where possible, we've used bullet points to get the key points across, but if reading isn't your thing, then proceed with caution. As we begin our descent into the final month of the year, our thoughts naturally turn to the future and big ideas to take us into 2024. Get yourself comfortable because it's time to talk about Project Rebalance. This is a very complex topic, so today's blog ride should be more of an overview with the initial focus on two hotly debated subjects, Scythe of Vitor and Osmumpton's Fang. We'll lay some groundwork, set expectations for what's to come, and open up the discussion. Then we'll be back in 2024 with much more detailed, dedicated blogs about each topic. This project is huge, and we want you to help us steer it forward. So I actually love what they're doing here. This is one of the first times in pretty much RuneScape history, apart from Evolution of Combat way back in the previous RuneScape game. This is one of the first times in history that they've tried to actually balance weapons or tiers, armor, gear, anything. This is the first time that they've really tried to rework or rebalance something. So I'm taking another drink before we get into this because this is about to be a lot. So, what is Project Rebalance? Project Rebalance started out as a game jam project. Mods Arcane, Halo, Husky, and Kieran decided to use their jam time to look at improving existing content rather than making something new. The project has evolved quite a bit since then, touching on a range of player and dev concerns around balancing power creep, reward space, and more. That's the what. The why is a little more complex. Some parts of the initial pitch were all about making underutilized content a little less obsolete, so that players wouldn't find themselves checking the old school RuneScape wiki after a level up message and realizing the brand new unlock wasn't worth their time. That would feel very demoralizing. Other parts looked at making early game content a little bit more intuitive, namely low level Slayer. I hate low level Slayer. One of the reasons why Slayer is like one of my most hated skills in the game, just because low level sucks. Whatever. So new adventurers could spend a little less time plugged into a wiki page or YouTube video and more time immersing themselves in Gillinor. So far so good, relatively low stakes, nice to have changes. But moving beyond the initial pitch though, there were more high stakes questions around existing item power. Some pieces of equipment were doing far too much heavy lifting, others not doing enough to befit their station. And of course we wanted to lay the foundation for new reward space in the future. As it stands right now, Project Rebalance has undergone some serious expansion, and while we're confident in our rationale for many of the pieces, we want to start sharing our thoughts with you and finding out what you think. Very brief overview. Got a picture of a scythe here. Just a naked man with a scythe staring into Tob. Make sure you're stocked up before stepping into the rest of this hefty blog. Yeah, judging by my scroll bar, it's pretty big. So there's a lot to go over before Project Rebalance can be put into action. When we're ready, we'll be releasing dedicated blogs for each section with in-depth breakdowns of what we'd like to do and why. In the meantime, let's start with an extremely brief summary of what we'll be tackling in the near future. It might not look at all that brief, but in relation to the size of Project Rebalance as a whole, this is definitely just the beginning. Agility, Slayer, Thieving, and miscellaneous skilling tweaks. Okay, so these are just some other tweaks that they wanted to talk about inside of Game Jam, so I'm going to run through these real quick. While we're not going into specific detail, we'd like to give you a clear idea of everything that's being considered so that if you have early thoughts, then we can see how they match up, rather than leaving everybody run wild with things that might be out of scope. So what's on the proverbial table? It's rebalancing of agility course XP rates and requirements, removing some fail points that occur really close to the end of an agility course. um, One of those is Canifis. Adjusting the level diary requirements for some agility shortcuts while exploring the potential for new high-value shortcuts to make progress feel more rewarding. Improving the Brimhaven agility dungeon, make it a competitive high-effort alternative to more typical methods like rooftop courses. I really like that. Rebalancing XP and fail rates of various NPCs to better position them with thieving progression, rebalancing XP rates, respawn rates, and drop tables of various stalls to make them a little more desirable for everyone, not just pet hunters. Improving the gloves of silence, that's good because that's essentially dead content. Removing various tasks from low level Slayer Masters, that's also good. Adjusting quantity of NPCs offered for low level Slayer Master tasks. Thank you so much. This is one of my most hated things about low level Slayer, is being a like mid-level combat person who is like, you know, maybe level 80 or 90 combat, and you're starting to train Slayer. You're maybe like level 30 Slayer, because Slayer takes a little bit more time, right? Which is fine. But then you go and get a Slayer task, and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to do my next Slayer task. I'm gonna get some decent loot maybe, and then you get 138 skeletons. Like, huh? I gotta go hit these level 40 skeletons that drop bones and 12 coins for 138 of them. So awful, dude. That's good. I can't wait till that's in the game. I had to show my grief a little bit on that. Adding a new Slayer unique or two to assist with early game Slayer. Improving the Dorgishkan Light Orb activity. This is very interesting. I've never participated in this, but Dorgishkan, as far as I know, except for specific niche things as an Iron Man or when playing leagues, Dorgishkan is very much dead content. So I'm very excited to see a little bit more life brought into Dorgishkan. Streamlining creation of Guthix Rest. I like that because Guthix Rest are super good. Adding make all functionality to Barbarian Potions. That's actually very good. Improving the Ring of Pursuit. Improving the Necklace of Faith. Reworking Ifarate's Aid. To reiterate, we'll go into significantly more detail on every single one of these points in a dedicated blog. We're figuratively drowning in spreadsheets and numbers relating to all the above. In the meantime, we hope this gives you a convenient summary of the type of thing we're looking at. We want to give everyone more of a reason to have a go at interacting with more stalls, NPCs, or agility courses, not to look at shifting metas, but to give intrepid explorers a little more to be excited about when trying out some of their new unlocks. That is something that I think RuneScape really struggles with, is things that are meta and things that aren't really meta. The gap in between what is the best XP in the game for said skill at said level versus something that was 2 levels ago that is like basically 0 XP an hour, or like 1,000 XP an hour versus something that now is 12,000 XP an hour just 2 levels ago. The gap in between these things is incredibly huge, and it's something that I think RuneScape struggles with as a whole. And it's very non-immersive, because if you're an adventurer and you're going to mine some iron and stuff, or some like adamant, and then all of a sudden you go to mine like granite, and now you're making like triple the XP that you were to go mine granite, which it's just so bad. Woodcutting is also kind of bad, but at least with woodcutting you start getting more value. Yeah, but anyways, while some of you might be thinking sounds like dead content, it's important to remember that there are thousands upon thousands of players who log on every single day without getting involved in social media or reading around much. We'd love for these players to spread themselves out a little and maybe give the Brimhaven Agility Arena a go, or pickpocket a paladin or two. Early game Slayer is a whole other beast, and one that we'll cover in proper detail when we get around to the section's dedicated blog. And they bring up an excellent point here, which is one of the reasons why I'm making my YouTube channel in the first place. There is a jabillion people that don't actually read these news posts or blog posts or their Twitter posts and I want to bring this content to you guys and cover it in either a podcast style fashion or a note style fashion, something, because there's a lot of y'all that I know do not go out and read this. Okay. Mining, another skill curiously not included with the three we've just mentioned. Mining's been a hot topic since our changes shooting stars earlier this year. We want more people enjoying the diversity offered by mining without displacing existing methods or weakening their identity. Here are some of the things we like to dig into. Improving motherlode mines positioning as a low intensity method with some ore output. Improving volcanic mines approachability. Yeah, that definitely. I've never once been to volcanic mine. Improving blast mines viability. Adjusting amethyst vein mining. Adjusting mining gloves to make them feel more desirable for their price. Reconsider the hard chromes diary requirement for lower gem mine. Improving game messaging to encourage charged Ami of Glory usage while gem mining. Improve clue geode rates from regular mining. Add more viable spots for granite sandstone to reduce competition for players looking to learn tick manipulation methods or just build up their supply of sand on iron accounts. Interesting. I'm glad that they encourage tick manipulation. Adjusting volcano drop system to give players more flexibility to choose between high GP per hour or high XP per hour without impacting uniques. I like that. Address group size scaling issues with volcano that can make finding a world difficult at times. It might look like a lot. Well, it kind of is, but just like the changes in the previous section, we're not looking to shift existing metas in any significant way. Love it or hate it, 3-ticking granite or gems will still be the go-to if you're looking to really maximize your gains. Instead, these changes are intended to give players greater flexibility to find mining training methods that suit them so that the kinds of activities players are engaging with actually reflect the diversity of training methods on offer. Okay, now the heavier stuff. Now these last two sections will be pretty easy for most players to understand, even if we just released a blog or explainer video. These next sections, however, are the reason we're opting to tackle each section week by week. We'll give you a brief overview of each section, then explain our next steps and what to expect, so hold your horses and please keep reading before you start typing. Run energy changes. This is likely to be the shortest section here. Let's run through at the top level overview. We'd like to revisit some of the work 2022's November Game Jam and take a look at run energy drain, run energy regen, and how weight and agility level interact with all of the above. These changes will involve a whole lot of maths and absolutely require a beta before we can discuss this in any detail. We're waiting on engine changes that would be required to make any of these adjustments in the first place, but we'll be holding off on talking any more about these until you're able to get into a beta world and try these out. That's all, just one to keep on your radar. Now for the ones you've been waiting for and we've been dreading. NPC defense changes, which is super interesting. I didn't even know this was on the table. Nothing feels quite as good as bringing the right tools for the job and exploiting an NPC's weakness to devastating effect. That being said, there are a lot of NPCs who are technically weak to a certain style, but not weak enough for it to really matter all that much. For example, gargoyles are weak to crush, but not by much, and often the kind of player who's killing gargoyles in the first place is better off using an abyssal whip than their best available crush weapon. We'd like to make existing NPC weaknesses feel more pronounced so that gear progression might feel a little less linear on your way to the in-game content, where bringing the right tools for the job becomes more noticeable. Really like this. Helps with the immersion. Just all in all, very good, and it gives a lot of purpose to other weapons versus a player who's like level 105 or something. His only weapon is going to be an Osmumpton's Fang or Whip, and that's probably going to be it. This will be pretty good. We're not looking to change things up to the point where you can't carry on doing what you're doing. To stick with the previous example, using Abyssal Whip against gargoyles will still be perfectly fine. It just might be the case that this Arachnid schedule pulls ahead ever so slightly. If you have one kicking about. We don't have a full list yet, and there'd likely be too many NPCs to list in this post anyway, so we'll move on for now. Adjusting existing weaknesses is all well and good, but the biggest beneficiary of a change like this is obviously melee, so it has 3 distinct attack styles: stab, slash, crush, that allow for a lot more gear diversity and also for a much broader reward space when it comes to designing new content. Range and magic are what they say on the tin An NPC weak to range is weak to every ranged weapon. An NPC weak to magic is equally weak to both Toomkin, Shadow, and Fire Strike. This can make it a little challenging to add new rewards without either power creeping at an unhealthy rate or releasing content that doesn't see much use for many existing players. We'd like to at least take a look at rolling out some new defense types for NPCs and exploring elemental weaknesses. I do agree elemental weaknesses will be very good. I think that this will be beneficial for magic, especially. I'm not sure how they're going to handle doing certain things, but like maybe having Toomikins be a certain style, like fire or water, and having stuff like the Nightmare Staff, it can be like earth or something. That way, all the in-game mage weapons will have different elemental points, so you'll basically end up having a lot more in-game possible weapons that you can use. Old School's combat system is iconic and integral to the game. We have no interest in changing the feel and fundamentals of fighting in Old School. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the changes, which we'll further outline in this section's dedicated blog. We're not looking to evolve combat. We're looking to create new avenues for rewards to give players a reason to use gear that's super cool but often just sits in the bank gathering dust. We'd like to do this by introducing range type weaknesses that mirror the breadth of melee weaknesses. Not sure if that's a word there, but we'll go with it. Heavy, which are javelin and bolts. Standard, which is arrows. And light, which are throwing weapons like knives or darts. And by introducing elemental weaknesses that might shake up magic progression beyond Trident, Sanguinesi Staff, Shadow in the form of air, smoke, water, ice, earth, shadow, and fire, blood. I super like that. Very, very fond of the range changes. I want to see the magic defense changes in a little more depth before I really can confidently say what I like about it, but I like this. Ultimately, what this boils down to is maybe a heavy ballista is worth bringing to gargoyles if you'd like to kill them with range, or that fire giants might take a little extra damage from water ice spells, which might free us up to make cool new things that fill more gaps without just moving power upwards. We're not going to get into any more right now because this one needs a separate blog and we won't be releasing that blog until we're also ready to go with the playable beta. We appreciate that rebalancing on a scale like this is a lot, and that it would be totally unreasonable to expect you to get a feel for things without being able to get hands-on, so we're not touching anything until you've had ample time to play around. For now, let's keep on trucking. Good changes so far. Very, very good thoughts in the works. Combat item adjustments. Okay, so here's the fun stuff. To start off, we'd like to bundle all the following in with the defense changes beta, or add them to a separate beta of their own so that you can once again get properly stuck in and give us valuable feedback. When we talk about adjustments here, they're separated into two broad categories and we'll just call them what they are: nerfs and buffs. Historically speaking, it's relatively rare for us to actively rebalance gear, but as the game moves forward, we get a clearer picture of more long-term issues with items that either aren't living up to their potential, befitting their status, or with items that hurt existing and future rewards base and actively make progression feel less rewarding. Here's what we're looking to bring down in power and why. Osmupton's Fang, it's too strong on non-stab styles, slash, and harms the position of other higher value melee weaponry like Scythe of Vitor, Blade of Saildor, or Inquisitor's Mace. Void Waker guaranteed hits, i.e. ignoring accuracy checks in PvM, makes it difficult to design worthwhile spec to DPS weapons in future without creeping upwards significantly. Ancient God Sword, current healing from special attack elongates outlast fights, creates too big an HP delta even when prayed against correctly. Yeah, so like if you are DMing someone, which basically just means death matching, which means unless you literally like break the like RuneScape code, which you can literally get put on like a report list because RuneScape's community is awesome. Whenever you agree to a DM with someone, you have to fight that guy until you run out of supplies. So whenever you're doing something like this, Ancient Godsword is basically best in slot. Like it's required every time. It makes them eat so much food. A cold necklace, far too much power in a single item. Bring Bring its power down slightly and distribute its magic damage across other parts of magic progression. I did actually see about this, or like hear about this. Very, very good. Occult Necklace is definitely way too easy to get unless you're an Iron Man. Yeah, so I like that. Tome of Fire and Water, these need to be kept in mind alongside the potential for elemental weaknesses. Elemental weaknesses pick up some of the slack for elemental damages. These tomes likely become too strong and need adjusting accordingly. Yeah, so Tome of Fire and Water are only on here as a item to be watched in their future. So here's what we're looking to bring up in Power and Y. Adjust damage on hit to roll from 1 to max hit instead of 0 to max hit. This makes early combat feel better. As it stands, if your max hit is a 1, you deal 0 damage 50% of the time that you successfully hit the opponent, which can feel pretty terrible for new players. It also improves access to information around successful Dragon Warhammer or Arclight hits, for example. Additional considerations required for the 10 HP community, but we'll get to those in the blog dedicated to all of these adjustments. Scythe of Vitur, not enough existing use cases, often too expensive to be worth using. More on this later. Elder Maul, not enough existing use cases, doesn't really fit its mega rare status. Yeah, because it's on the same drop table as the Twisted Bow. Inquisitors, extremely rare items. Mace often fall short of other offerings, even in places where Crush should be the go-to, and it's vastly more expensive than its equivalent weapons and other styles. Soul Reaper Axe, a little too frustrating to feel good using. I'm very scared that this is on the buff list, because the Soul Reaper Axe can be very good. They have to be very careful with that because it's so strong already, but like it's just got a little bit of a drawback. Maybe they'll nerf the HP drawback of it a little bit. Reduce drain rate of bottom tier prayers like Thick Skin, Burst of Strength. Existing drain rate to make them effectively unusable in any real capacity when they're unlocked. Yeah, I agree. Improved Sharp Eye and Burst of Strength prayers. Currently, the player needs to hit 20s for these prayers to have any effect due to how our game handles rounding, which doesn't really line up with the level they're unlocked at. Interesting. We're going into more detail on the Scythe of Vitur and Osmumten's Fang in just a moment, but for the rest, we'll be waiting on a dedicated blog and beta before getting into more detail. We know rebalancing is a scary prospect, and we know that nerfs feel bad. Nobody likes having their stuff getting weaker. Our hope is that by making other changes to NPC defense and bringing other gear up in power, we'll be able to carve out room to fill in those gaps and introduce new rewards worth obtaining, rather than letting a handful of items limit what we're able to offer up in the future. Speaking of combat item adjustments, Osmumten's Fang and Scythe of Vitur. So what we're all here for, Osmumten's Fang. Old School's premier tank busting stab weapon was introduced alongside our most recent raid, Tombs of a Masket. Since then, we've seen conversations crop up time and time again about its use across the board and whether its power is healthy. In particular, the release of Desert Stretcher 2 and everybody's favorite vampire body puppeteered by a malicious fungus Fardorvis, shone a spotlight on the Fang's efficacy when used to slash as opposed to stab. Ultimately, for a stab weapon with no additional usage costs, it's a little too close to dedicated slash weapons that require upkeep, namely the Blade of Saildor and the Scythe of Vitur. We don't want to alter its identity as a seriously strong stab weapon, but we feel like it's necessary to remove a lot of its slashing power and have it properly occupy its niche as a stab weapon, so dedicated slash weapons are able to shine where they're supposed to. With this in mind, we feel like the cleanest solution is to have the Fang's unique double accuracy roll passive effect apply only to stab. I like this. I think that's a good change. I still feel like it's pretty OP because that still is going to make it pretty much best in slot at Forecath, Nex. Yeah, that still makes it incredibly strong. This means that Osmumten's Fang remains a fantastic generalist since its accuracy rerolling allows it to perform well even against foes who aren't necessarily weak to stab like Tecton, the Nightmare, or even bosses inside the Theater of Blood. While it's possible that potential changes to NPC defense might diminish the Fang's jack-of-all-trades status somewhat, we still think it will prove to be an immensely valuable pickup and unlock for any player looking to make their first forays into PvM in the Old School. This change does more than anything is make more room for the blade of sail door inside the Vitter to be worth the cost and further cement the idea that you're bringing the right tools for the job. That being said, the Southern Vitter still stand to be improved in some areas to make it feel a little more worthwhile. Let's take a look. I still think Fang is going to be too overpowered here, and I don't think people understand that. The double accuracy roll is just a little bit crazy. It's very strong, and some of the hardest content in the in-game has like neutral defense stats or is weak to stat. So yes, the Scythe might be a little bit better, but for what the Osmoten's Fang is, I still think that it's going to be too strong. Like, it's just too common of a drop to get, really, for it to be that strong. Anyways, whatever. I don't think that that's enough of a nerf, and I still think that it's going to hold a pretty valuable place in in-game content. But that's fine. I agree with the nerfs so far. I do think that it could have used a little bit more, but that's fine. Scythe of Vitter. We'd like to buff the Scythe. Hooray, let's chat about how and why. The why is pretty simple and comes up a lot in conversations both within the team and the community. The Scythe of Vitter is a mega rare weapon from Old Tool's hardest raid, but doesn't feel like it occupies the same space as a Twisted Bow or Tunic and Shadow, since it doesn't have as many use cases as other mega rare weapons. Its usage cost is one of the highest in the game, with only more expensive weapon to use being the Toxic Blowpipe with Dragon Darts. Yeah, it's that bad. Even at some places where the Scythe is technically best in slot, it's often not good enough compared to the second or third best options to feel worth the cost of use. Bardorvis and Seculus encapsulate this fairly well, where Osmoten's Fang is hot on the Scythe's heels, but has no upkeep cost. The how is a little less simple and needs us to look both short and long term. Long term, we want to commit to adding more content featuring low defense / weak 3x3 or bigger bosses where the Scythe is likely to shine. In recent times, we've been adding more NPCs with higher defense values and trying to make defense feel more relevant and old school as a balancing factor. Historically, you generally bring your hardest hitting weapon to any fight, since monsters either had such low defense that your accuracy didn't matter, or you could just lower their defense to the same point anyway. Players complained that accuracy felt useless as a stat, so we tried rectifying this in places, but it hurt the Scythe's usability in the process. This big lesson here is to do a bit of both. We've added a lot of tanky NPCs recently, and we can pull back and release some low defense ones again to try and keep a healthy balance and let the Scythe shine a little more brightly. It's worth noting that when the Scythe is already good, it's really good. Its CPS potential is beyond that of the Twisted Bow and Tunic and Shadow in many places, and we believe the main thing separating the Scythe from other mega rares is the sheer volume of content that the T-Bow and the Tunic and Shadow are best in slot. In the short term, we want to make a few direct changes to the Scythe, ultimately aiming to give it an extra edge in a few more instances without overly buffing it in spots where it's already strong, and above all, make it feel good enough to be worth the cost of use. With all of this in mind, we want to give the Scythe a slight accuracy buff so that its use cases are slightly expanded and that it performs a little better against NPCs with slightly more respectable defense levels. Additionally, we've aimed to cut the use cost down so that even in places where it doesn't idly steamroll the second best in slot option, the time saved or extra GP per hour made feels like a worthwhile decision rather than just a steadily increasing hole in the bank. Yes. Add plus 15 / accuracy to the Scythe, which is a pretty good chunk. This gives the Scythe a slight boost in many of the instances listed above, but doesn't shift its power much in places where defense levels are already very low. Todd being a prime example. In terms of existing use cases, adding plus 15 / accuracy increases Scythe's CPS by 0.2% at a really low defense boss like Big Nilo, 20 defense, but 7% at a boss like General Corridor. That's a very good example. Reduce charge cost from 1 vial of blood and 300 blood runes to 1 vial of blood and 200 blood runes for 100 charges. All-in numbers were taken on November 28th. They may vary slightly at the time of reading. This reduces the cost per swing from 779.6 GP to 584.6 GP. Or it reduces the cost per hour from 935,500 GP to 701,500 GP. Note that this is an upper cap when in conjunction with the final change on this list. Actual spend is likely to be a little lower. Yeah. This is approximately 26% usage cost reduction, which is pretty good. Only use charge when the scythe actually hits an enemy. While this is a frequent occurrence with the scythe, since all 3 hits roll accuracy independently, it's likely to add up over extended periods of use, which is very, very good. So if you hit something like General Guardor with Scythe of Vitur, you get 3 hit procs. The initial hit proc, and then the other 2, which roll independently of the first one as well. It's very possible that one of those will end up hitting a 0, and you will not use a charge for it, which is very good. In particular, the scythe is more likely to miss at enemies with higher defense, shocker, which means this charge has the most benefit for the scythe in the places where it most struggles. Very, very good. So, places where the scythe, where you're trying to fight in-game content that has higher defense, you are getting more inherent value out of the scythe because you're not using as many blood runes. We believe that these changes to the scythe intentional long-term boss design, as well as the previously mentioned changes to the Fang, put the scythe and the melee landscape as a whole into a much healthier spot. We're conscious of the fact that it's not a perfect solution, that there's a lot riding on long-term commitments to intentionally design scythe spotlighting content. We'll be looking out for any and all feedback and continuing to keep an eye on the scythe so that we can get it into the best place possible and hopefully get more of you into the theater of blood. It's really good and absolutely worth the learning curve. I can attest to that. I did the learning during leagues, and it's a very fun raid. That's everything we'd like to do to the scythe right now. We've seen suggestions over the last year for extra mechanics under the hood that mess with NPC size or how accuracy rolls on each hit. But ultimately, we think a simple approach is better for now. Good. Sticks with RuneScape, coupled with an ongoing commitment to just make more stuff that scythe really shines against. Swing. So, what's next? What's next is mostly just waiting and seeing. Many of the topics within this project are too big to properly grasp just by reading a blog or watching a video. They're going to be rolling out more blogs in early 2024 about all this stuff that was mentioned up above. We don't know at this stage whether we'd look to roll these out before other item adjustments are bundled into one so that they interact with other changes we mentioned in this blog. We'll keep it posted. And then that's it. So guys, that is every single change that has happened while we were gone playing leagues. Thank you guys if you have made it this far. I know this has been a long video. This has been a whole conjunction of news posts and updates all conjoined into one, and I'm back, so hopefully I can get to making more news videos. I know I still have a few more news vlogs to cover. If you're watching this video and in time of release, there's a few more news blogs to cover, and those will probably be out within the next few days. I love you guys, and I'm sorry that I have been gone for so long. Peace to all, and I hope you enjoyed leagues. I will see you in the next few days.